My name is Evita Morin. I am the CEO at Rise Recovery, and I've been working with System and Soul and with Kenny for over a year now. Um, and the primary result since working with Kenny, I would say he's been just a critical ally in the work that I've been doing and in helping me set the stage for the kind of leadership team that I need and the just moving strategy forward. We could not do that without the operating system that we're using through System and Soul and Kenny. I came in 10 years ago and almost 10 years ago, 9.5. And I feel like a kid. And I actually had implemented EOS when I had started. So maybe within the second or third year of my being at Rise. And EOS became the people we were using to facilitate that. Actually, apparently the propriety and licensing and whatever, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. They were going to create their own system. And I was okay with that. I mean, it was, I felt a little bit kind of shoved into another thing, and it was a variation on a theme. Operating systems typically are. But what I didn't get out of that was really when our organization started to shift and we could kind of feel the rumbling under our feet, I really didn't feel like they were present for that. That system just seemed to lack some human relationship component. And I felt like I was it almost felt robotic. And it felt like I was continuing to have to make these steps in a vacuum and that I wasn't really being listened to, that like I was losing staff. Retention was a problem, and financially we were in trouble, and it was just like status quo. So I realized I needed to change both the partner I was using and the system I was using, because neither were working for me. And I met Kenny through a Vistage and executive coaching circle. He was presenting there, and I really loved the way that System and Soul worked. I was familiar with the cadence. I was familiar with, again, the kind of variation on the theme, but something different about it to me was just the relational aspect. Kenny in general as a coach is so human and so authentic and so well versed. And I felt like it brought kind of all of the best pieces of not just as traditional operating system, but also the best pieces of business thinking, of culture thinking, and put it in a package. And so, whether I really didn't flinch on or need to think about the idea to move. I connected with him and we onboarded and transitioned fairly quickly. I felt like Kenny was an exceptionally astute coach. I felt like he was knowledgeable, and it just clicked with me. I work at a nonprofit. Um, we are not trying to sort of drive revenue in a profit in that way. We are looking for a way to connect the human, the human element and the interest in saving lives and in supporting people with our strategic plan to grow, to be able to do more of that. So we knew revenue was a part of the model, but that wasn't the end all and be all. And so I felt like System and Soul really, it just worked well in that kind of environment where we're trying to be more mission and servant oriented for us. But also it's a business, so also earn revenue to support that. So just the last year alone, we've been able to increase our revenue from about 3.4 million to almost 4 million. So that's been a significant just trajectory move, strategic move. We went from having a season of turnover in leadership and really kind of making hard calls on the kind of leaders we need, to having now an incredibly just an excellent leadership team. So I feel very good about where we are there. And one of the things that I struggled with in old operating systems I used was that I couldn't seem to drill it down into the other departments. It stayed at the executive level. And so now we're at a place where, with the right leaders, the right focus on data, and because we had this great infrastructure to demonstrate this is what we're looking for, people who know how to drive this. Now we're starting to see that drill down into every department. So the kind of key performance indicators and things that we need it's just, our work is now data driven from top to bottom. And I've been waiting for that. It is such a new and different challenge. I feel like every growth stage of an organization or, an organism is a challenge in its own way. but it's a good challenge. So, I am in a sector where there are a lot of people who are focused on having to keep the lights on having to make payroll. I mean, that's just the reality of the kind of work that we do. And really because there is a lack of investment or a lack of awareness around the importance of business infrastructure. And the place we're in now, that was another thing. We've been able to be so financially healthy that we were able to weather this storm of financial instability in the whole sector. Yes, we did have some funding loss, but because of our strategic growth plans, because of our diversity of funding, for instance, we were able to, what was once 50% of our budget was now 15%. So we could move, we could be nimble. And so that it's now the challenge, and the feeling I get now is like I feel confident in being able to run the business in such a way that we're riding the waves, and we get to decide the challenges we get to decide now is, do we go for this major funding stream that might grow programs, or is this, maybe not best aligned with our vision? We can choose where we go. And so again, the challenges never end, but they are more based on growth and strategy and less on trying to keep them. Oh my gosh, what are you waiting for? I mean, I feel like it's pivotal. It's for Rise. It's been critical for my leadership. I would say also to leaders, especially those that are more visionary in style. I know that feels good to say, but I think the problem with visionary folk, like I'm looking 10 years ahead, is that I often miss the language that my team needs strategically, and like, in our quarterly refuels, and our all of those components that help us like create the map so that everyone's rowing in the same direction. I needed that. That's what this does for me, is translate where I want us to go down to the quarterly tasks that need to be done for us to move there. And so I find that that's been the most useful tool for me, because I'm not a naturally, detail oriented map laying out person. I am running at 100 miles an hour. So I would say, if that's you, if you have a visionary leadership style, and if you need your team to be rowing in sync with you, this is an incredible way to do it. But I think, in general, that's been the core engine that's driven Rise Recovery. And so, I would never move away from having this kind of system in our organization.